Hello, this is Sarah Thomas with Sari Diddy, and I'm back to show you what to do with that foundation paper piece block that we put together last time. So you can see I finished up the block and it needs to be trimmed. So all you're gonna do, I like to use the Lightbox, is use the dotted lines and go ahead and trim it up square. So I've made the same block, but a little bit larger this time, and I've gone ahead and put two of the blocks together. So you can see, I'm gonna position these into a finished piece. So for this project, it'll be a full ring of flying geese, and there is a ghost goose on this one. That was done intentionally. So you're going to put them right sides together, and the nice thing is with a full block, it's very square and the points are gonna line up nicely. I still like to clip or pin my corners in place, and also my center. Make sure everything is aligned. Actually, I'll bring this one down here so I can just go ahead and sew from the top. And set your stitch length still to the 1.4 millimeters, so that way when it's time to tear out the paper, it will perforate nice and easily. So using your foot, I have a clear view foot on so I can see exactly where my line is. Just gonna stitch down that line. And this way my blocks are gonna come together. It's up to you if you want to press that seam open or let them fold over and interlock on each other, top to bottom. We'll move this all the way down to the end. Go ahead and cut it. Now we have our full block, and you can see when I press it open, and I'll use my iron to press all the seams in place, I have a perfect ring of flying geese. All right, now that we've put this block together, let's move back to that first block, and I can show you different ways to actually make it into a project. So like I mentioned, we do need to trim it. So let's flip it over, and I use any type of straight edge. Since I have my add-a-quarter ruler already handy from the paper piecing, I'll use that. And right along those dotted lines, that has been built in for your 1/4 inch seam allowance. You always want to make sure that you're cutting on the seam allowance. Some foundation paper piecing patterns don't have that seam allowance added in. I always make sure to add mine. All right, now it is trimmed away. So let's take a look at these 3 blocks that are all the exact same. And so we could put together a teeny little runner where all of the geese fly the same direction and make it look nautical. We could turn them into part of a circle and then just get a blank piece of fabric or a nice, neat piece of denim and stick it here. We could also turn them different directions into a runner. How about like that? And so when you put these together, again, you'll just go right sides together and sew along that seam line. And then you tear out your paper on the seam first, and then I like to press it. So you can see down here, I put together this image of a table runner that I really want to put together using the larger flying geese. So now I want to show you, when you're finished with your blocks all together, let me show you how to remove the paper. You're going to flip it over. This is when everything's been pieced together. I grab my seam ripper or a fine tip point, and I just release. Remember, we use that washable glue on that first piece. So release that glue, but since it's washable, it will tear away easily. And we are using the 1.4 millimeter stitch length, so it perforates nice and easy. This is newsprint paper as well, so it tears away a little bit easier than regular weight paper. Now anything that is inside seams, these have raw edges that are loose. Anything that's inside the seams, that's especially when you want to use that seam ripper, that point, to loosen the edge and go ahead and peel up along those stitch lines. There we go. And sometimes when you get to these little points, just like that, the paper won't all come away because it comes to a fine tip. Just use your fine tip point there, peel it away, Oh, sometimes your nails can do it. And see, use your seam ripper to get in that point. All right, so once we have all of that done, you can think of different sizes of blocks and different configurations for different projects. Now let's take a look at this block that I've already finished. I put this one together. It's a smaller version of the flying geese, and it has the full spectrum of colors, but this one I can now quilt and finish into a coaster or maybe even a mug rug, or possibly a patch into another larger quilt block. Both of these show the same version, except one is going clockwise and the other is going counterclockwise. And you can have a lot of fun with making your pieces of the triangles focal points with fabric and a very low volume background fabric. This one here with the blues is 4 of the blocks turned into a baby quilt or a wall hanging. So that would be really, really fun to make and pretty simple. Over here, I've made a full-size quilt, and I also like to play with color. I love color when I use my quilt patterns. And then down here at the table runner, obviously, it has the full range of flying geese in the colors. When you're comfortable with foundation paper piecing, you can go into a little bit more of an intricate design, and you can do 2 rings of flying geese. So I hope you have fun with all of your foundation paper piecing.